of Sri Aurobindo from the book Letters on Yoga Part 1 from the Collective Works of Sri Aurobindo, Volume 28, page 137, topic The Supermind or Supramental, subtopic The Supracosmic, the Supramental, the Overmind and Nirvana. First point, Sri Aurobindo says, I mean by the supracosmic reality, the Supreme Sachidananda who is above this and all manifestations, not bound by any, yet from whom all manifestation proceeds and all universe. Second point, the supramental and the supracosmic are not the same. If it were so, there could be no supramental world and no descent of the supramental principle into the material world. We would be brought back to the idea that the divine truth and reality can only exist beyond, and the universe, any universe, can only be a half-truth or an illusion of ignorance. Third point, I mean by the supramental the truth consciousness, whether above or in the universe, by which the divine knows not only his own essence and being, but his manifestation also. Its fundamental character is knowledge by identity, by that the self is known, the divine Sachidananda is known, but also the truth of the manifestation is known, because this too is that Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, Vasudeva Sarvam, etc. Mind is an instrument of the ignorance trying to know. Supermind is the knower possessing knowledge because one with it, and the known, therefore, seeing all things in the light of his own truth, the light of the true self which he is. Sri Aurobindo says it is a dynamic, not only a static power, not only a knowledge, but a will. According to knowledge, there is a supramental power or Shakti which can manifest directly its world of light and truth, in which all is luminously based on the harmony and unity of the One, not disturbed by a veil of ignorance or any disguise. The supermind, therefore, does not transcend all manifestation, but it is above the triplicity of mind, life, and matter, which is our present experience of this manifestation. Fourth point, Sri Aurobindo says the overmind is a sort of delegation from the supermind. This is a metaphor only, which supports the present evolutionary universe in which we live in matter. If supermind were to start here from the beginning as the creative power, a world of the kind we see now would be impossible. It would have been full of the divine light from the beginning. There would be no involution in the inconscience of matter. Consequently, no gradual striving evolution of consciousness in matter. A line is therefore drawn between the higher half of the universe of consciousness, Parardha, and the lower half, Aparardha. The higher half is constituted of Satchit Ananda, Mahas, the supramental, the lower half of mind, life, and matter. This line is the intermediary overmind, which, though luminous itself, keeps from us the full, indivisible supramental light, depends on it indeed, but in receiving it divides, distributes, breaks it up into separate aspects, powers, multiplicities of all kinds, each of which it is possible by a further diminution of consciousness, such as we reach in mind to regard as the soul or the chief truth, and all the rest as subordinate or contradictory to it. Sri Aurobindo says to this action of the overmind may be applied the words of the Upanishad, the face of the truth is covered by a golden lid, or those of the Vedic, Ratena Ratam Apihitam. Here there is the working of a sort of Vidya, Avidyamayi Maya, which makes possible the predominance of avidya. It is by this primitive divisional principle that the mind is enabled to regard, for example, the impersonal as the truth and the personal as only a mask, or the personal divine as the greatest truth and impersonality as only an aspect. It is so too that all the conflicting philosophies and religions arise, each exalting one aspect or potentiality of truth presented to the mind as the whole sufficient explanation of things, or exalting one of the divine Godheads above all others as the true God, than whom there can be no other or none so high or higher. This divisionary principle pursues man's mental knowledge everywhere, and even when he thinks he has arrived at the final unity and harmony, it is only a constructed unity based on the aspect. It is so that the scientist seeks to found the unity on some original physical aspect of things, energy or matter, electricity or ether, or the Mayavadin thinks he has arrived at the absolute Advaita by cutting existence into two, calling the upper side Brahman and the lower side Maya. It is the reason why mental knowledge can never arrive at a final solution of anything, for the aspects of existence as distributed by the overmind are numberless, and one can go on multiplying philosophy and religions forever. Sri Aurobindo says, in the overmind itself, there is not this confusion, for the overmind knows the one as the support, essence, fundamental power of all things, but in the dynamic play proper to it, it lays emphasis on its divisional power of multiplicity and seeks to give each power or aspect its full chance to manifest, relying on the underlying oneness to prevent disharmony or conflict. Each Godhead, as it were, creates his own world, but without conflict with others. Each aspect, each idea, each force of things can be felt in its full separative energy or splendor and work out of its values. But this does not create a disharmony, because the overmind has the sense of the infinite, and in the true, not spatial, infinite, many concording infinities are possible. Sri Aurobindo says this peculiar security of overmind is, however, not transferable to the lower planes of consciousness, which it supports and governs, because as one descends in the scale, the stress on division and multiplicity increases, and in the mind, the underlying oneness becomes vague, abstract, indeterminate and indeterminable, and the only apparent concreteness is that of the phenomenal, which is by its nature a form and representation. The self-view of the one has already begun to disappear. Sri Aurobindo says, mind acts by representations and constructions, by the separation and weaving together of its constructed data. It can make a synthetic construction and see it as a whole, but when it looks for the reality of the things, it takes refuge in abstractions. It has not the concrete vision, experience, contact sought by the mystic and the spiritual seeker. To know self and reality directly or truly, it has to be silent and reflect some light of these things, or undergo self-exceeding and transformation. And this is only possible either by a higher light descending into it, or by its ascent, the taking up or emergence of it into a higher light of existence. Sri Aurobindo says, in matter, descending below mind, we arrive at the acme of the principle of fragmentation and division. The one, though secretly there, is lost to knowledge, and we get the fullness of the ignorance, even a fundamental inconscience, out of which the universe has to evolve consciousness and knowledge. Fifth point. If we regard Vaikuntha or Goloka as each as the world of a divinity, Vishnu or Krishna, we would be naturally led to seek its place or its origin in the Overmind plane. The Overmind is the plane of the highest world of the gods, but Vaikuntha and Goloka are human conceptions of states of being that are beyond humanity. Goloka is evidently a world of love, beauty, and ananda full of spiritual radiances. The cow is a symbol of spiritual light, of which the souls there are the keepers or possessors, Gopas and Gopis. It is not necessary to assign any single plane to this manifestation. In fact, there can be a reflection or possession of it or of its conditions on any plane of consciousness, the mental, vital, or even the subtle physical plane. The explanation of it, which you mention, is not therefore excluded. It is quite feasible. We will continue this in tomorrow's recording. These are the words of our Lord Sri Aurobindo.